Alright guys, I want you to look at the stats at the very end of the screen and think to yourself, who is actually the thrower in this lobby? We're just going to be looking at the red team over here, so I want you to look at those numbers and think which one is actually throwing. Some people may say, well, no one's really throwing the game. There's a soldier that went 7 and 9, and while his stats might not be as great as the other players, how is he throwing the game? Well, it wasn't actually the soldier. In fact, it was actually one of the supports, and it's their playstyle. One thing that I always get asked while I'm streaming is, Slaydra, how do I climb out of gold, silver, platinum? I want to go past diamond, whatever the case may be. And it really comes down to knowing who to actually avoid. And that is a huge advantage that you have with Overwatch is as soon as the game ends, usually people queue back up. So you want to avoid the players that are throwing your games. And there's something called soft throwing and there's something called hard throwing. Hard throwing is very obvious. People sitting in spawn, not playing, running it straight down the lane. Those are what would be considered the hard throwers. But soft throwing is something completely different. So I'm going to go ahead and actually play out this whole gameplay, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about as far as soft throwing. We're going to be looking at the playstyle of the Moira player. So if you're new here, my name's Slaydra. I've received Grandmasters in every single role, and I like to kind of look at my own gameplay sometimes to improve as well. And I think it's one of the best ways you can improve, but finding out who is the thrower is actually one of the best ways to actually basically climb out of whatever rank. So you'll see in the very beginning over here, where is this Moira position? Now, Hog does miss the hook, so Moira did get some good value, but this Moira is really not going to get anything realistically done in this position. Maybe she can throw a damage orb from the side, and maybe she can get some small amount of damage in, and if someone else happens to land, you know, maybe a couple headshots and they are low enough, they could get the kill. But you could just do that while you're still with your team. The Moira over here dies, and the positioning was so bad over here where, again, there was no need to do that. If you wanted to play DPS as Moira, you just throw the damage orb, sit next to your team at safety versus using your fade to go in. Yes, I know it has a very fast cooldown, but this person right here, that's all chip damage. That is just basically saying, I'm going to build my Moira ult and get my inflated numbers while not being able to secure a kill. So that is also a very bad thing to go ahead and do. You only really want to throw your damage orbs when your teammates are able to also kind of complement you. You can see Moira's just flanking on the right side, just throwing more damage orbs, more damage orbs. Now that damage orb wasn't bad because her team is kind of next to her, so there could have been a potential amount of damage that could have been dealt, therefore the orb would kind of finish the targets off. There's a lot of numbers now in Overwatch 2 after Season 9 with the new changes on the HP where you just need, like, literally it's 10 damage. For example, 2 Junkrat shots. We're talking about Hanzo's arrows. There's a lot of numbers which just add up to 240, and you need that small amount of 10 extra damage or 20. Like Cass has extra HP, so he has a little bit more. But there's a lot of numbers that will just add up, and it's consistently something over here that Moira can't actually get an insane amount of value. Over here, what actually happened, and she did get good value, what happened is I got hit by a Alari headshot, and then she followed up with the damage orb. So you could argue that, oh, well, the flanking Moira worked out right there. Well, you could have just been in a safer position and just thrown the damage orb. Now, what's actually happening in this gameplay, and I believe I was diamond in here, okay, it's like a plat to diamond in this gameplay, and you will definitely notice that players like to play Moira for whatever reason in this sort of a way, and they have all these high numbers. But at the same time, the tank on the enemy team is unable to play aggressive. There's a lot of tanks in general, or they can play aggressive or defensive. A real easy example is Reinhardt, right? Reinhardt can either shield or he can swing. When he's swinging, he does damage, but when he's blocking, you know, he's not going to be able to deal damage. So the Ramatra has to play a lot more defensive because they're basically down a healer in a lot of these scenarios. Now, in this instance over here, there's a lot of ults breaking out. Sometimes fights can be a little bit sloppy. This is kind of what I would consider a sloppy fight here. But you can see the Moira was trying to go ahead and confirm a kill, couldn't get it. In that instance, going from behind can be okay sometimes. You can see the Moira is just trying to DPS, and the Ramatra actually gets quite low. We still have our Hog up. If I did not die to that Ramatra like that fast, like let's say the Hog actually just shot the Ramatra once, the Ramatra would have been dead. The Moira was just kind of relying on getting a little bit of extra damage while letting the Ramatra just die a couple seconds later. So that was another, like, pretty big soft throw over there. But there's more what I would consider in the throw category in a moment. You'll see definitely time and time again Moira's trying to get like this small damage. there is very little chance in this situation when our team is trying to regroup to just use this biotic grasp and getting some small damage or building up Moira ult. Moira ult generally won't win you a team fight. There are certain ults that will definitely win you team fights. Those are going to be like something like Nano or even Alari's ult as support. You can actually win games. But look at this positioning on the Moira. During this whole engagement, their tank has to be healed essentially by just the Ana, and that makes it a lot more difficult for their tank to play aggressive. And so that's going to cause the tank over here be at essentially lower HP, while the Moira is kind of flanking with the other DPS, which was Venture at the time. Now, the thing is that Venture can go off on their own and secure kills. There are certain characters that can go off on their own and get kills, but if you really want to help them out kind of secure kill, you can just, again, throw the damage over from a safe spot and continuously heal your tank. But again, this Moira is just like the whole game, man. The whole game, they were just playing like this, and it is definitely soft throwing. Again, what I mean by that is not intentional, just walking in and dying, but it's more so just their playstyle is going to cost their team to actually lose. So avoiding these players will definitely help you win more games. And also, I guess it's another thing is don't play like this Moira. That would be like the other tip over here. You can see basically this first round is about to be over, and basically the Moira is a lot of times nowhere to be found helping the tank. There's like, I think, one instance in this whole game where they're actually just like sitting there kind of healing the tank. So over here, this is the first round, it ends, so we're gonna go ahead and go to the next round. You can see the same exact play style. The thing is there's a big risk when you run a character that cannot one-shot or basically kill someone within a few seconds. Like, the Moira over here is in such a bad position. If I land a shot and another person lands a shot, like I land a headshot, especially towards the higher ranks of the game, if two people happen to land like a headshot, the support is dead. Usually, you want your tank in the front, then everyone else is kind of behind the tank. There are exceptions to flankers, but for the most part, the tank needs to be the person leading the charge. You need to be behind the tank, especially as a support. You are not going to frontline. Even if you're playing Brig, you're gonna try to play a little bit more defensive. You're not just run it down. Look at where the Ramatra is, right? That is a huge thing to take into consideration. Now, there are other things that go into this as well, where if the Ramatra is unable to play aggressive because he's just constantly low on HP, because Hog is obviously going to be W King and playing very aggressive. He has no shield. That's just the way Hog works. So if the tank is unable to build space for your team, then your DPS essentially don't have the space to go ahead and push forward and secure kills, which is a huge other problem that this Moira is doing when she is playing like this. Like in this instance over here, not too bad. They're throwing a healing orb for once. And like, again, looking at the stats, you couldn't tell unless you really understood Overwatch the soft throwing that is going on in this game. Now I have to go ahead and regroup. And even though they capped the point over here, now a lot of people may say, well, if the Moira is getting a lot of damage in, that can kind of help. And to an extent, it can help. It depends. Do they happen to have an Ana that is throwing really good grenades and the target's getting low enough for Moira to, let's say, fade in, get a kill, and maybe fade out? Realistically, that should be your playstyle of like, okay, just use all the nades offensively, have the Moira throw the orb. Like, it's just too much coordination, especially since I'm guessing like this is just like a random queue over here. But you can see the Moira over here is again playing way too aggressive, and they are in front of the tank. That basically was just a free kill for us. We had Kitsune Rush over here. I mean, like, look how bad this play was. Like, when there's a Kitsune Rush, you give up the space. You already have the point. You can just back to the side that doesn't have, like, the entirety of the Kitsune Rush and play around something. You can start giving them a little bit of the bar, but then just contest towards the very end. But there's no way. And maybe the Moira's thought process over here is, oh, our guy's getting low, we gotta heal him, right? And they're trying to be a good support, so to speak. But, like, this position is so bad. You could just be behind. And now that there's a Hog right there, very, very terrible positioning. And that basically was the first initiation of, like, I believe in this fight that broke out, that was the first person to die. And usually how it works in Overwatch, once one player is dead, people are just going to just W key. Okay, we're up one, just W key, right? That's just kind of the normal way people play when the fight actually breaks out. So now you're going to go ahead and see us go towards their spawn, and we're going to go look for maybe some potential extra damage. And there are a lot of times where, like, again, the Moira caught out of position, first death again, and at this point, if their team pushes up, we're still up one, we basically automatically win this fight. And the Ramatra has to play super defensive, so he's not going to be able to build his ult as fast, because he's not going to be able to play as aggressive, and the DPS can't get the space that they need to actually take shots at things, right? So that is another problem that this Moira is actually doing for the team. And it makes it very difficult for anyone really on the team to get things done when there's constantly someone that's on the respawn timer, right? But over here, our hog gets ulted by the Pharah, and then it ends up being an okay thing right here, where right now we are technically up 1 because there's 2 people dead. I got greedy. Should I have taken this? Probably at this position, because Ramatra right here, while he already did use shield, I got kind of greedy. Now, I guess we can go into my play over here. Now, was this the best idea to maybe just throw out the Deadeye and just take the shot on the Pharah because that could pose a threat for my team? Yeah, it could have been a thing, but our Baptiste got the kill. I usually feel like if the Pharah is that close to the Baptiste usually can just get the win because, you know, the support OP, right? But I was thinking we could get the Ramatra here. Again, I was greedy. He breaks line of sight, and then the Kiriko teleports to me. This was actually a really good play that the Kiriko did, playing really, really hyper aggressive. I mean, this fight was already +1 on our end, and then it ended up being +2 once the Pharah died. And then now you can see the Moira over here is trying to heal. This is where the Moira should be in this position. Now, where was she before? Well, she was actually healing right here as well. But during the whole entirety of this fight over here, she was actually popping coalescence. I can definitely tell you that she was interested in getting more kills. You'll see that the person was probably targeting Adventurer, and you'll see that there is a laser over here on Kiriko. So, I mean, it could be hitting both. It depends on kind of the angle here, but I guarantee you, yeah, you can see it's just going with Kiriko. They're playing so aggressive that they forget that there is another, you know, person popping their ult. Maybe you could get value out of that, but again, they're just really wanting to kill the Kiriko, and the Kiriko ends up surviving because Kiriko is Kiriko and doesn't ever die. But the Moira is still trying to heal, but I think that more than likely they try to use the ult like to try to secure kills because that's the way the player wants to play. And you'll see that the Pharah is up in the air, and we unfortunately do lose our Kiri. But at the top, there's just the Pharah. I miss every shot, but it doesn't really matter because we are just better because they also have the Moira. So you can see Bob's over here. I'm just going to break line of sight just so we don't even have to bother shooting it, because still I'm contesting the point over here, and Bap is eventually going to heal me, Kappa. And you can see this Moira over here. Like, now the Moira has actually made the play even worse. Not only is the Moira over here, well, they need to wait for the tank to respawn, but then the Mercy now is out in the open, and obviously we can take some shots, and that kind of put the Mercy in a bad position over here because the Mercy wants to go ahead and heal the Ashe, and I guess they kind of have this Ashe at a different angle. But remember, the Moira, if we watch this play how it kind of broke out, the Moira was over here. You can see the Mercy is beaming, and I believe the Moira is behind the wall here. So at this point, both of the healers are over here, and our Hog is just going to go to town on that Ramatra. So Ramatra is not going to be able to survive for very long, even if they go, okay, hold on, Ramatra is about to be dead. He's like barely 1 HP. They start to heal Ramatra, and then, oh, he's already dead. You can't just heal a target that is 1 HP and expect it to survive, unless it's, of course, Kiri, and you just throw the Immortality, a Bell on them, or a Baptiste, right? You have to actually keep the tank up, otherwise they will fall quite fast. So during this moment over here, let's see what the Ramatra's out. Now, what the actual heck is going on with this Moira play? So they were over there before. Now that they have, like, I guess just went all the way over here for a flank, realistically, do you think the Moira is going to get a pick over here? Absolutely not. And so what happens is the Ashe actually ends up dying, and then we are going to be I was looking for the Moira over here, and then we find her, and we go ahead and stick, and for some reason it hits the Mercy. Mercy gets hooked anyways. But at this point, the Ramatra just has to be on the defensive side the whole time, and he can't really play. And you can see his HP, like I mentioned before, he's at like half HP most of this game before like really anything gets to be done, because the other support is playing DPS. And a lot of people complain about DPS Moiras, and you could still play DPS Moira, but you can't do it in this sort of a way. So what did we learn from it? So, and I kind of want to make this a new series where I call it like, you know, maybe educational, or like Teacher Slaydra educational Overwatch to like how to climb to GM, as we did unranked GMs multiple times. But I think instead what I want to do is focus more on very specific things versus just like throwing up raw gameplay, which I still will do, but I want to make this like an educational series on how to climb up in Overwatch in 2024 plus. So basically, what we learned is, even though this Moira has pretty good numbers, and a lot of people would not have said, oh, they absolutely threw him. Yeah, their healing kind of is lower, and Mercy's healing in general will be lower because you get more value out of the damage boost. The Moira actually costed them the game in a lot of scenarios. Now, was it 100% the Moira's fault? Maybe not. Maybe that even if the Moira was playing super passive, but I can guarantee you, the tank could not make space because they weren't healing the tank. The tank was constantly going to be having to defend, having to kind of play for their life, while they only had Mercy for heals, and the Mercy you guys saw was kind of pocketing the Ashe once in a while. So it made the tank unable to play the game, and the tank was probably like, dude, I don't even want to play tank anymore, and this is why people don't like to play the tank in Overwatch. Anyways, that's going to sum it up. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the series and new style of videos. If you did, drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you guys in the next educational video. Peace out.